So the Packers-Bengals preseason game just came to an end, so I want to break down my biggest takeaways from this game, some players who stood out. And if you guys are new here, I cover the Packers throughout the week, so if you want to stay up to date with all things Packers, feel free to subscribe. I also have a Packers newsletter, which I'll leave linked in the description down below. But first off, we will start off with the most important player on this Packers team, and that is Jordan Love. I think all of us were excited to see what he would look like in this first, real live game action, even though it is just preseason. We were wondering, how would he look? Would he look like he's improved over the past couple seasons that we've seen him in the preseason? And if we overall look at his day, he goes 7 of 10, one touchdown, a beautiful touchdown pass to Romeo Doubs, and he only had a total of 2 possessions in this game. And if you look at his first possession, he went 2 for 4, and there was one deep pass to Christian Watson. Watson looks like he sort of beat his guy deep. The safety sort of comes over the last second, tips the ball away. Wasn't a perfect pass. And then there was a wide open play. Luke Musgrave coming across the left side. He was completely wide open, and Love just completely missed him. So starting off, I was like, okay, there's some ups and downs there. And just sort of looking at his performance so far in Packers training camp and all the different reports coming out of there, my takeaway has been that he seems somewhat inconsistent, where he makes nice plays, but he's also missing and inaccurate at times. So after the first drive, I was like, okay, hopefully he can come in the second drive and look a lot better, because it was, of course, all these guys, their first real live game since last season. And considering Love has basically no experience, of course, he played against the Chiefs, started a couple of years back, played against the Eagles last year, but Love is still a very young QB, has basically no experience in real live game situations. So I think to have a struggle slightly in your first drive makes sense. Sort of getting those jitters out. But then he comes in the next drive and plays really, really well. There was one nice throw he had to Romeo Doubs, and then he comes in, play action pass, hits Doubs, throws it up there where Doubs sort of has to jump up and grab it. Doubs, great touchdown catch. And so Love ends this day with a 112.9 passer rating, 2 drives, 7 of 10, 1 touchdown. And so I think overall my takeaway was that was a pretty solid outing for Love in his first preseason game. Was it perfect? Definitely not. But after struggling a little bit his first drive, he comes in the second drive, plays a lot better. And I think that, for any QB in the preseason, especially a young QB like Love, you just want to see him, make some nice plays, sort of get some work in a live game situation, and sort of build on that as he goes into these next preseason games and as he comes into the actual season. And he looks, compared to earlier in his career in these preseason games, he looks a lot more comfortable. He looks like he's in control. He's making the right reads. His issue, I guess, is sometimes he's just inaccurate, which happens from time to time, but he's not really putting the ball in super, bad places where, it's very easy to pick off. When he is missing, at least so far, he seems to be missing in areas where, the ball doesn't, go too bad in harm's way. Overall, solid performance from Love, and we'll get to see him hopefully next preseason game and prepare for this as the season comes in. And then my next takeaway is looking at these Packers receivers. We saw tonight, Romeo Doubs, as I already mentioned, had a really great night. Only had 2 receptions for 21 yards, but a beautiful touchdown catch there. He didn't play too much. Most of these starters didn't play that much in this game. And then Jaden Reed had this one play where he just jumps up. You guys probably saw it. He jumps up. He's like, 5'11", but he has this insane burst. I've never seen a guy his size jump like he jumps. And we saw that. I think he was playing with Clifford at that point. But seeing that sort of just gives me excitement for what this Packers receiver core could be, because we already know the upside and the big plays that Christian Watson can make. We saw tonight what Romeo Doubs can do, and we saw it a little bit last season as well. But to have another guy, a third guy in Jaden Reed, who can take lots of those slot snaps, who has that catch radius where he can go up, even though he's a shorter guy, he can go up and make big plays. He's speedy, he's fast. The Packers had one little motion thing where he comes across in front of Love. Love tosses it to him. He runs for like 6 to 8 yards. And so I think the Packers really do plan to get him involved a lot in this offense and in many different kinds of ways. And so it's nice to see him as a rookie come in here and make some nice plays. Also, too, another guy who I think sort of stood out to me was Dontavian Wicks. He actually led the Packers in receiving yards, 3 receptions for 68 yards. He looks really nice. 5th-round pick this past season. And so I think when you look at the Packers and their wide receiver depth, we got Watson, we got Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Samori Toure had 3 receptions, 56 yards. We got Dontavian Wicks. And then Malik Heath was another guy in this game who had 3 receptions, 36 yards. He made some nice plays in there as well. So the Packers, even though I know the talk is, of course, we don't have, veteran receivers here, I think this is one of the, better young receiver cores in the NFL. And if all these guys can start clicking with each other and really get things going together with Jordan Love, the sky's really the limit for the Packers receiving core, not only this season, but seasons in the future as they continue to grow and develop. And I think we saw tonight the different kinds of abilities and the big playmaking abilities of lots of these different young players, young rookies as well. And then one other big performance I want to talk about is Sean Clifford, who actually played a majority of the day here for the Packers at QB. Went 20 for 26, 208 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And just looking at that stat line, you may think, 2 interceptions, not great, which obviously I wish he didn't throw those picks. But besides those 2 picks, he was looking really good. I think, let's say, if you took away those 2 interceptions and you had never known about the Packers QB situation and you watched Jordan Love and you watched Sean Clifford, you may wonder who was the starter. Sean Clifford was playing really, really well. He's not afraid to, push the ball down the field, and he looks super comfortable back there. He does not look like a 5th-round pick. He does not look like a, first-year 5th-round pick. I think oftentimes those kind of guys, seem like they are slightly confused back there in the pocket, in their first snaps in the NFL. But Sean Clifford looked incredibly comfortable, and I think when you look at the Packers and their quarterback situation, we of course let Denny Etling go not too long ago, which means we only have Love, Clifford, and Alex Magoo on this roster. And I think tonight really showed that Sean Clifford is clearly going to be this backup here in Green Bay. He got a majority of the snaps there at QB. Alex Magoo didn't even pass the ball one time. I think he had maybe 1 or 2 possessions here to end the game. But I tweeted during the game, with Sean Clifford doing what he was doing, it looks to me like Sean Clifford is like a Brett Favre clone where, Brett Favre, would throw a pick one play, next play throw a touchdown. He would, put the ball in harm's way, but then go back there and make some nice plays right after that. And that's sort of what Sean Clifford was looking like, where, yes, he did have those 2 picks, but outside of that, he was really throwing dimes lots of the game. And honestly, I'm slightly excited about him because I do think, let's say if Love ever went down this season, I think that Sean Clifford could come in and, do what's needed to do to give the Packers a win. His one issue is, of course, his risk appetite is pretty high. He's willing to try to, fit the ball into really tight windows, which is why he had that 1 pick 6 and also that other interception. But at the same time, too, after those interceptions, he didn't come back in and really struggle. He just kept pushing the ball down the field and kept making nice plays. So honestly, I was very happy with Sean Clifford's performance, and considering he's a young rookie player in a 5th-round draft pick, if he can continue to develop, the Packers, I think, found a really solid value there in the 5th round of the 2023 NFL Draft. And then to move on to the defensive side of the ball, a few different guys who stood out. I would say the number one guy who stood out, I think many people agree just from watching the game, it was Carrington Valentine, 7th-round cornerback, who, it feels like 5 to 10 times there were these plays where he just makes incredible plays. Not only just like pass breakups, he had 3 passes deflected. He also had 1 interception as well, a beautiful interception where the ball flies to his hands. And then he had 4 total tackles. And he also had this really nice play in the backfield. I think it was a run, maybe it was a pitch or something. He flies in, makes the tackle. And so he did not look like a 7th-round draft pick. And I think when you look at the Packers and their cornerback room right now, it is pretty solidified, at least, the starters, Jair, Rasul on the outside, Keyshawn Nixon on the interior, or in the slot, and then Eric Stokes when he comes back. But I think that Carrington Valentine is going to make this roster because he looks legit, like a legit player. And if the Packers suffered some kind of injury this season, let's say Eric Stokes is still injured and Rasul went down, I think the Packers will be pretty confident putting Valentine in there. You sort of saw his playmaking ability, not only, his tackling ability, also his ability when the ball's in the air, really tight coverage whenever he was on these different receivers. So that was very exciting to see his 7th-rounder playing as he played. And then if we look just at tackles, Anthony Johnson Jr., safety, he was playing more at the end of the game, had 5 tackles, led the Packers tonight. Dallin Levitt also had that nice interception. I think it was a pass deflection caused by Cox, I believe. Nice interception there by Dallin Levitt. And if we talk about first-round pick Lucas Van Ness, he was out there a good amount. I'm not exactly sure how many snaps. There was maybe one play I saw where he sort of caught my eye where he and Devontae Wyatt did this nice little stunt where Lucas Van Ness sort of had a clear lane to the quarterback. There wasn't a sack or anything, but that was one play where I sort of was like, oh, there he is. But outside of that, he didn't really catch my eye that much in this game. Maybe if I watch it back, I'll see something else. But at least watching the live game, he never made any really like super crazy wow plays. And I think if you look at the rest of the defense there, Keyshawn Nixon had a couple nice plays to start the game. He didn't really play too much. But overall, Carrington Valentine was the really big, the guy who really caught my eye on the defensive side of the ball. And so overall, it was, I think, a solid performance, solid first preseason game. Oh, finally, actually, we got to touch on Emmanuel Wilson, running back, who led the Packers 6 carries, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns, had an 80-yard touchdown run. He looks really, really good. And there is, of course, the uncertainty of the Packers and their third running back spot right now. No doubt it's Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon to lead the Packers backfield here. But the competition for the third running back spot is open, as it has been for the past few seasons. And I'd say right now it's between, Emmanuel Wilson, Tyler Goodson, Lou Nichols, who is injured, Patrick Taylor. And Tyler Goodson tonight, 3 carries, 2 yards. He went down with an injury, which was unfortunate. Patrick Taylor had 6 carries, 19 yards. And then Emmanuel Wilson really dominated, partly due to the fact of that 80-yard run. But on that run, he showed nice vision. He's like sort of running inside and cuts outside when he sees the lane open up. And then he has crazy breakaway speed. The guy almost caught him, but he sort of outran him there to end that. So he really made a case for himself to be the third running back. And the thing is, really, for that third running back spot, which we've heard from both Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst, is that guy needs to be able to pass block. He also needs to be able to make a big difference in special teams. And so I didn't notice Wilson in special teams today. Maybe he made an impact, but that's definitely where they need to sort of thrive if they're that third running back. But to see what he did tonight, there's no doubt that he at least, I think, increased his chances of making, finishing off that third running back spot with that ability he really showed there. But that's pretty much what I wanted to touch on. Luckily, the Packers got the win. Preseason wins obviously don't really matter, but still, win is a win. 36-19 against the Bengals. And we're getting closer and closer to the start of this NFL season, which is very, very exciting. Can't wait to see what happens here for the Packers this year. But that's going to be it for this one. If you guys want to stay up to date with all things Packers, feel free to subscribe. Also have a Packers newsletter where I write there from time to time, so feel free. I'll leave a link in the description down below. But that's all for this one, and I'll see you guys next time.